After having an affair with the wife of an investment banker, what seemed like a simple fling turns into a spiraling journey of suspense and shock. The man is thrown into a mess of unexpected deaths, hidden motives, and a mysterious insurance policy. As tensions rise and secrets come out, he finds himself at the center of an unpredictable situation where every choice has consequences. Will he find a way out or get trapped in his own game? In today's video, we will be going through the 2015 thriller film Be Careful What You Wish For. The story begins with a man named Mark. He and his family arrived at the beach for their summer break. During his stay, Mark bumped into an old friend, Carson, who told him different spicy stories about the area. One day, while looking out his window, Mark noticed a newlywed couple, Lena and Elliot, moving into the next apartment. While he was secretly watching Lena, she suddenly caught him staring. Feeling embarrassed, Mark quickly stepped away from the window. Later, Mark decided to ride his bicycle and unexpectedly crossed paths with Lena. Her beauty captured his attention. However, he decided to avoid her since she is married. Then, he goes to spend some time with his friend Carson, who assures him that he will have a great time. When he returned home, Mark's father introduced him to their new neighbor, Elliot. Having heard of Mark's skills as a boat mechanic, Elliot asked him to inspect his boat's condition. And if all works out well, he is interested in hiring him for regular maintenance. The next day, Mark decided to check the boat. While working, he noticed Lena coming out from a swimming pool and goes to take a shower in the cabin. Mark, unable to control his curiosity, and continues to gaze at her. Suddenly, Elliot approached him to inquire about the boat's condition. Mark provided an assessment, stating that the boat required some maintenance, especially in the engine area. Elliot was impressed with his work and offers him a salary of $20 per hour. That evening, Mark accidentally saw Lena changing through a window. While watching, he noticed Elliot entered the room and appeared to be quite aggressive with Lena, which he found concerning. The following day, on the boat, Mark curiously asked Elliot about how he managed his boats and businesses so efficiently. To which he replied that anyone can achieve anything if they have enough money and charm. After returning home, Mark spots Lena through his window. Suddenly, she begins screaming. He rushes out and finds her standing by the car, terrified. There is a spider on the dashboard. He quickly removes the spider and fixes the car. But the situation turns awkward when Lena leans in to turn off the engine. Later, Mark tells everything to his friend Carson, who warns him to be careful as Elliot is not an ordinary person. Next day, while returning from work, Mark notices Lena sitting on her porch. She locked herself out of her house and needed his help to get in. Suddenly, the rain begins to fall, and they rush towards her home. He breaks the backside window with a rock to get inside and then unlocks the door. Being grateful, Lena invites him in and offers a drink. Lena noticed that he had a wound, so she starts cleaning it. But Mark loses control while looking at Lena and kisses her. He apologizes for what he did, but she doesn't seem fazed and tells him to try again. The two started playing with each other and enjoyed the whole night on their bed. Next morning, when they wake up, Lena tells him that he was good last night and asks Mark if he has done this before. But Mark hides the truth and says it was his first time. Later in the evening, he goes to meet his friend Carson, who taunts him by saying that he tried to call him last night, but it seems that he was having a good time somewhere else. When he sees a few girls, he suggests hanging out with them, but Mark brushes him off, as he is only interested in Lena. Over the next couple of days, Mark continued to look at Lena and even began exercising to impress her. One day, while he was working on a boat, Lena approached him, saying that her husband sent her to see his work. After getting on the boat, Lena gradually started being close to Mark, which quickly spiraled out of control. That night, Mark was working at the beach and noticed Lena walking with her husband. He gets upset, but then his friend comes from behind and involves him in another spicy conversation. The following day, while riding his bike, Mark saw Elliot's car outside a shop. He got curious and went in, but there he found Lena. Once again, they sneaked out to have a private moment. However, when Elliot returned in the shop to find Lena, they had to quickly break apart. Lena gives him a goodbye kiss and leaves with her husband. Later, Elliot inspects the boat Mark was repairing. He didn't seem happy with his work and gave him a lecture. Even so, He acknowledged Mark's commitment to his job by saying he reminds him of his younger self. At last, he orders him to finish the work properly before he returns from his business trip. Mark felt happy about it as he got another chance to spend more time with Lena. During their conversation, Lena gifted him a phone, explaining that Elliot is paranoid, and this phone will help him keep everything secret. But, unfortunately, the gardener caught them spending quality time together. Later, when Mark returned to the beach, he noticed that Elliot was standing next to his boat with Lena. Elliot ordered him to take out the boat so he could test its engine. During the ride, a beam suddenly struck Elliot, but he managed to duck out in time. It turns out that the engine has stopped working, so he stepped inside to check it. Taking advantage, Lena informs Mark that she is planning to divorce her husband. That night, Mark received a distressing call from Lena. She revealed that Elliot left for his business trip after hurting her. Mark rushed to the hospital and urged her to report this. But Lena stopped him. After a few days, Lena sent a message to Mark and asked him to join her. This time, they ended up playing in a boat shack. Lena confesses that she feels free and safe around him. They are still involved in a lawsuit against his first wife. She will ask him for a divorce once it ends. On the other hand, Mark's friend noticed his changed behavior and asked if he was seeing someone, but Mark just brushed it off. Later, after returning home, he noticed Elliot came back. A few moments later, Lena calls him in panic and urges him to come over. He rushes towards her home and discovers that they had a fight, during which she struck something on his head in self-defense. And now he is no more. She gets scared and requests him to help her. Mark assures her that they will figure out something and tells her to act normally. Later, he goes to work at the beach, but when he gets home, he finds Lena came to meet his parents. At night, he tries to comfort Lena and together they plan to hide the truth. Mark takes Elliot's body to his boat. He asks Lena to call the cops and tell them that they had a fight and Elliot left the house in anger. But, as usual, nothing works as planned. While shifting Elliot into the boat, a security guard noticed Mark from afar. He recognized the boat and hailed at him. Like a smart person, Mark pretended to be Elliot and quickly sailed away. In the morning, police arrived and began investigating. The boat was completely ruined, and authorities believed it was a tragic accident. Mark used a beam to add injury in Elliot's head and ignited the boat with alcohol and a cigarette. To maintain a sense of normalcy, Mark resumed his work. Meanwhile, a new lady officer arrives in town to handle this case. She asks the local officers to reinvestigate, as Elliot had a huge life insurance amount in his name, all of which was now going to Lena. And she wants to confirm if there is any kind of foul play is involved or not. She meets Lena to gather information about the incident. But she didn't feel satisfied with her answers and continued to dig deeper into the surroundings. On the other hand, the police also began re-examining the case. Suddenly, the security guard came and said that he had seen someone resembling Elliot that night. This claim brought everyone's attention on Mark. Cops approached his father for insights, which made him even more anxious. When Mark confronted the guard seeking details of the suspect, the guard's response made him even more nervous. Meanwhile, the lady investigator noticed the broken glass window at Lena's house. Things got worse when his friend mistakenly revealed about his mysterious girlfriend. Later, the lady investigator came to his house and wanted to ask him many questions. The walls seemed to be closing on Mark. He tried to call Lena, but hung up abruptly when he saw his parents. Now, many people thought Mark had done something wrong. He found himself in the middle of a storm that seemed impossible to overcome. Every piece of evidence, every clue, every shadow of doubt pointed towards him. Suddenly, Mark receives a message from Lena at the police station. He goes to meet her in that boat shed, and she tells him that they have to be apart for a while. When he returns home, the investigator comes back to take his fingerprints and a mouth swab. She tries to interrogate Mark, but he remains silent. After that, Mark explains everything about his situation to his parents. Meanwhile, cops find a match for the blood sample that the agent had given to them. Mark tries to prove his innocence, but there is no evidence to back him up. Even the gardener who had seen him and Lena left the world before the cops could talk to him. In the meantime, Mark escapes and goes to the watershed, where he meets Lena. The moment he steps inside, Lena tears her clothes and starts shouting to let her go. He was cleverly framed for things he never did. Luckily, He found an ally in one of the policemen who believed he was innocent, or at least had doubts about the mounting evidence. The officer gave Mark a chance to prove himself. The last piece of evidence was the phone, and Mark knew somewhere in Lena's phone there would be evidence that could help him. He rushes to the motel and tries to find Lena's cell phone, but fate wasn't in his favor. The unexpected arrival of both Lena and the lady investigator put him in a difficult situation. He was caught red-handed, and the phone, the one thing that could change the course of events, remained out of his reach. Mark notices that the two women have matching tattoos as they walk out. In that moment, he realizes that the investigator is actually Lena's lover and has been protecting her since the beginning. He realizes that he is just a pawn in a bigger game. However, in a last gesture of love, Lena decides to hand over the cell phone, which contains the crucial evidence he needs. The women fly off after claiming Elliot's insurance fund, and this is how the story ends.
Remember to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. If you have any suggestions for future movies, please leave them in the comments section below. Until next time, take care. Goodbye.